lace up those cleats and put on those mitts. It's time for another exciting edition of Our Little Yankees podcast. Stepping up to the mic, it's the OLYP team.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome inside Our Little Yankees podcast. I'm Julian Coulter. Usually I say a very exciting episode of Our Little Yankees podcast, but there's nothing exciting about this week's episode because the fact is you come to us not because you want the same wishy-washy back and forth blah that you get anywhere else. Doesn't matter, and doesn't really even necessary to talk about where else you might go, because you came to us because you want to hear the real fans talking about their real frustrations with the New York Yankees. And boy, oh boy, did the New York Yankees give us a lot to be frustrated with this week. So, or really this season at the end of the day. So as I always do, I will bring on my two co-hosts, my two confidants, my two compatriots, and my two miserable best friends talking about the New York Yankees team. Josh, E-Ray, we're tri-squad right now, so everybody sees you while we record. Say hi, and let's get right down to it because there's a lot to discuss.
Yeah, let's just go, man. Let's just do it.
See, that's the point.
I'm done. I'm done with hellos. I'm done with highs. I'm just done.
Yes, absolutely. The fact of the matter is the New York Yankees were straight up dreadful this weekend, and they were straight up dreadful for pretty much the entirety of the season. And while there was promise in last week's episode where they had just beaten Tampa Bay on Sunday and they were going into a series against Toronto where we were praying and hoping that the bats would wake up, we saw Garrett Cole do Garrett Cole things in the first game against Toronto, and then the wheels fell off to the point where we watched three of the most embarrassing Yankee games that, frankly, I can remember maybe going back to 2013 with those terrible teams. But at least with this core, the most embarrassing, flat out putrid performances of games that we have seen, ever. I don't think you'd be hard-pressed to tell me that as far as the expectations of this team and the way that it's gone, that they have looked this bad. The fact is, fundamentally, they were terrible. They were flat-out horrific. They cannot field. They can't play defense. They can't hit. And outside of Garrett Cole, who we love and we will never disrespect on this show, they pretty much can't pitch either. And Mike King, too. He was really good. And so, look, there'll be plenty of time in this podcast to really just stick a fork in everything that the New York Yankees have done wrong. And they have done a lot of it wrong, so we will get into it. But without really having to dive full bore, I think we can all pretty much say that it's the end of the line. The frustration is here, and something needs to change.
Yeah, something needs to change. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I have the answers because I don't, and that's not my job. But something needs to change. I think this isn't just a 2021 problem. This is a problem that dates back to pretty much August of 2020 that carried through most of last year's regular season. And then it skipped a few games in the Cleveland playoff series. And then right back to where we, were before that in the Tampa series in the DS, and we're here again. This team, and to be honest, it goes back even further. I mean, the defense is terrible. It has been for a long time. The lack of attention to detail that you see on the base paths in the field, winning teams don't perform this way. You can talk to me about talent all you want, and we know that this team is talented, and this team has a lot of individual talent on it. But a championship team, a winning team, a playoff winning team, a division winning team does not perform the way that this Yankee team does on the regular now, dating back to August of 2020. And at this point, it's almost an 80 game sample size, so this is alarming in my opinion.
Josh,
and it has been alarming.
Real quick, and then I'll let you continue with your point, but since you mentioned the record, it even dates back even farther. I'm looking at a stat: 29 regular season September, 14-11, 2019 playoffs 5-4, and then last year with 20. Yeah. I just wanted to mention that as a.
No, you're right. And to be honest with you, my main issue, my main problem it's not the record. We talked about this before we started recording earlier today.
Yeah.
5-10 record, 2 good weeks can get you out of that. The problem is the way they're playing, the brand of baseball they're playing is so bad. It's so subpar, and there's no accountability at all that I see anyway, that we see. Aaron Boone addressed the team on Friday after their horrendous performance, where where
Pretty much
also
the worst game of the
fans,
season. That's
Yeah,
one of the
definitely.
most embarrassing
That's
games
rock
I've seen in a
bottom.
while.
That's rock bottom. The fans throwing balls on the field, whatever. We can talk about that later. Boone addresses the team after that game. And then on Saturday, they promptly do not respond. And then on Sunday, they lose again and get swept. Brian Cashman spoke to the media today, which we'll talk about as well. There's just no accountability. And so, they can tell me all they want that we'll fight through it. We'll get out of it. We have the talent to do it. We have the players to do it. Well, stop saying it and start doing it, because it's getting late, even though it's April. It's getting late for me personally, because nothing I see besides the performance of one person on this team, nothing I see I like. And it's getting to the point where they got to shake something up, and it has to happen soon, because by May 1st, if this team is still floundering, they will not be able to flip the switch the way they always say they can flip the switch in October, because they will be burying themselves to the point where I don't know if they'll be even able to believe in themselves to dig themselves out of a hole. So that's kind of where I am at right now.
It doesn't even feel like they can get out of it right now. It's just that bad. Like, you guys mentioned, I really can't picture a time where, 2013, 2014, 2015.
Those teams had no talent.
Those teams, like 2013, Chris Stewart was our starting catcher. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we have a healthy lineup right now, the healthiest we have been, and this team is miserable. It's trash. I don't even know where to start. I really don't. Like, you can't even list one problem because everything's a problem. They step on that field and they lost already.
Yep.
Bad they're playing. They pick up a bat, they pick up a glove, they've already lost. And you see it in their faces. You see it before the game, during the game, after the game. You look around the league, we mentioned it, other people have mentioned it. Teams are having fun. There's players to be excited about. We used to feel that the last few years, at least, even back in 2019, maybe not last year, because that was very frustrating. But in 2018, we make jokes that it was like a 100-win team and it was the worst 100-win team. But still, we still had some fun there. Stan, I remember, had the one hell of a summer. In 2019, the replacement guys, Gio Urshela, Luke Voigt, like all these guys were like DJ's first year. Like all these guys were good. Like, it was fun, but like, guys, I just don't understand what is going on. Is it the hitting, right? We could talk about the hitting, I guess. We could talk
about anything.
Here's the thing. That's the best point.
What do you want to start with? Do we talk about the hitting first? Do we talk about the defense? Do we talk about
Sorry, Jules, go ahead.
Well, what all I was going to say is, look, the fact is we're using this as a lethargic opportunity, because not just us three, we're three very, very big time Yankee fans who have been diehard since, we started growing up in the New York area, but a lot of people feel the same way. So what's the best way when you're pissed off or you have something wrong to do? And for us, it's to talk about it, and that's why we do this podcast. So you know what? You're right. You say, or hit your punching bag. You say you don't know where to start. Well, you don't start from the beginning and start for the root of the problem, and that's the offense. And that's what we can discuss first, because the fact is, right now, the New York Yankees offense is horrendous. It's
the worst in the league.
It's dog shit. It is dog shit. That's what it is. It is not good. They can't hit a fastball. And they get a steady diet. And by steady diet, I mean they literally open their mouths and shove breaking balls down their throat with the occasional fastball that half the lineup can't hit. The only guys that know how to hit on the team.
They're looking it go straight down the middle.
Yeah. The only guys on the team who know how to hit are DJ and apparently Gio. And that's your number one hitter and then your number 6 hitter. whether it's Judge, whose batting average has dropped 50 points since the 2-homer game 3 days ago, or Hicks, who is the worst hitter in the lineup right now, Stanton, who goes down on 3 pitches every single at bat, Glaber, who literally now looks like he's a single A player,
He's
and
lost.
not the highly touted guy, and Clint, who I love him, but he's not in the lineup enough to actually make an impact. They take him out whenever he goes 0 for 3. So your middle of your lineup is despicable now, and you're relying on them to try and win you games. And right now it's just unattainable, considering that's supposed to be what was supposed to pick up the pitching staff, what was supposed to save the bullpen, and what was supposed to carry them during the summer.
Yeah, it's like we say, this team is a home run hitting team. If they don't hit a home run, they're not winning the game. So yesterday they hit a home
They
run.
don't even score a run if they don't hit a home run.
Well, yeah, they can't even get a hit, for God's sake. They can't even get a hit. They had 11 hits in 3 games over the weekend. 11 hits. They're so inept. And E-Ray, what you said before is true. They step on the field, they've already lost because they have no confidence right now. They could not. If I was pitching, throwing 47 miles per hour, they would not.
Wow,
they would.
Your speed's going up. It was like,
I don't know what it is, to be honest. But, they wouldn't hit it. They would look at it. And you want to talk about that? I think for me, that's the main issue with the offense is we know the Yankees have always had this reputation dating back before this group of players, even, back into the last group of players that we love so much. This team makes you work. They make the pitchers work. That lineup is out there only to hit the pitches that they think they can do damage on. They're not going to chase, right? They're going to make you work to get them out. They're going to get into long counts, long at bats, and they're going to try to get a hit, or they'll take a walk. But we've gone way past the point of trying to make a pitcher work, and they are just straight up not aggressive enough. This was making the rounds all weekend on the internet. This past series in Tampa, those 3 games, the amount of, if you look at the pitch by pitch charts on MLB.com, you see it. The amount of pitches that they're taking middle or over the plate and not swinging at, they're just looking at them. And then you look at the pitches that they are swinging at and swinging and missing. It's all pitches out of the zone that they're swinging and missing on. And the ones that they're not swinging on are the ones over the heart of the plate, or they're fouling them off. And that's happening as an entire team. Last year, it was Mike Ford. It was Mike Talkman doing those things. Gary Sanchez doing those things.
Yes.
This year, it's everyone. And so Glaber is concerning for me because I see him up there. It looks like he's trying to be a bit more patient than he was in 2018 when he first came up. And that's okay, because in 2019, he was the same way. He started drawing more walks, but now I think he's gone too far. Somebody else, we've already mentioned his name, Aaron Hicks. He's not up there to hit. He is trying to walk. And it was in spring training, it was a joke because he was walking a lot. And Michael Kay asked him in the middle of a spring training game about it. And he said, I swear I'm not up there trying to walk. Let me tell you something. He is up there trying to walk. He will stare at pitches 94 miles per hour over the middle of the plate, not swing at them, and he's waiting for 4 pitches out of the zone. Let me tell you something. They always say, he's the number 3 hitter because he breaks up the lineup. We talked about that lefty nonsense last week about how they say it doesn't matter, and then they start making
terrible lefties.
They start making lineup and roster decisions based on having lefties who aren't even good, like Rougned Odor, Jay Bruce.
The guy we didn't even mention, we had a guy retire. 15 games in because he was so bad. A guy that, we messed up. We were like, but we also were like, let's see what Jay Bruce can do. I'd rather see him on
We were wrong about it.
Isn't the root of the problem for that this guy is a spring training invitee? That we are hoping that's what he is. But the Yankees very well could have gone out there and spent $15 million because they're the fucking Yankees to bring in a lefty bat who isn't going to be a guy who's in his late 30s and could potentially retire. So, continue your point, Josh, but that's what it is. They're cheap. Yeah. They're cheapskates.
So, but anyway, my point with Hicks is that I'm just done with him. I don't know if they can bench him because I don't know who they can play instead of him.
Mike Talkman at this point. I'd rather watch Mike Talkman.
This is what's happening real quick. We're calling for Mike Talkman and Mike Ford. Out of all people, Mike Tobin couldn't hit a fastball last year. Mike Ford pinch hit in Game 5 of the ALCS. I still have nightmares about that, but we want them in the lineup because it's been so bad. That's what's insane to me.
Yeah, and if Hicks is going to continue to play, he cannot bat third anymore. That has to stop. The only thing the Yankees can really do, honestly, really do, is shake up what they've already been doing. They're not going to be able to make roster moves, at least not drastic ones. The only things they can do are maybe give Mike King a chance to start a game instead of having him, be a bulk guy after an opener.
Why didn't he start?
An opener, by the way, that apparently Nick Nelson was told beforehand, literally less than a day before, and said he did not feel uncomfortable. And then look, here's the thing. Front office is one of the things I think we can dive into in regards to, so we don't have to get that deep into it now. That's another issue.
Yeah. Hicks cannot be batting third anymore. That is just the long and short of it. Until he is in the batter's box actually trying to get a hit, he cannot bat third, because as far as I'm concerned, this is something that we've talked about. That team, when they score in the first inning, they are winning that game. And they do not score in the first inning. They just don't. They've done it once this year, I think, and it was on Wednesday, or was it? Yeah, it was Wednesday. The Judge 2-homer game, and they lost that game anyway. They need the top three guys in that lineup need to hit. They're the whole key. LeMahieu has been okay. I don't even know if okay is right.
It's been so bad for everyone else that he's been, I would say, good, because the bar is so low.
Right, but opinion. In relation to him, he's been meh, I would say.
A lot of double plays.
He's the engine, in my opinion, of the lineup. And if he gets going, I think they'll start to play better. But if he's not, if he's going to struggle, which he's allowed to do because he's human and he's not going to hit 360 every year, other players need to pick him up. And if Aaron Hicks is batting third, he's one of those players that needs to pick him up. So in far as I'm concerned, Hicks has to be on the bench or lower in the lineup. And, to be honest with you, after his defense yesterday, I think maybe the bench is the best place for him to be, because that is inexcusable. That cost them the game, because that forced Garrett Cole to throw extra pitches. They couldn't extend Cole long enough into the game to keep this, the score tied, because he tired out by the seventh inning when he gave up the winning run to Tampa. So, yeah, I mean, it's a comedy of errors. And Hicks is one of the main culprits for me. Gleyber Torres has been horrible. So disappointing. I'm extremely disappointed.
He blew it on a couple of days ago.
His defense has been terrible. We've talked about it. He's so disappointing to me because we had such high hopes for him. And I'm starting to wonder now if this guy is ever going to be good, at least here. So, yeah.
I agree. I mean, here's the thing, and this is the perfect point. If it's not one thing, it's the other. And look, we could harp on it, but the other thing that's killing them day in and day out is their defense. And I said it on the podcast last week, and I tweeted it on Friday when it happened. This low point for the New York Yankees. The tweet about the Tampa Bay Rays going out there at 11 a.m. on Sunday when everybody gets to come to the ballpark and arrive late and do their thing, and taking infield practice. And I don't care who it is on the Rays. If there's a ball in the air, what you would expect with major leaguers is that they make the play. If it's a ground ball to them, you would expect them to make the play. I don't think in the 6 games we've seen them play Tampa this year that I've seen them make an error, because they don't make errors.
No, because they're so fundamentally sound.
Yes, because that's what they do. And why do the Rays win despite not having a payroll? Because they play good fundamental baseball, and defense is part of the fundamentals. And the fact is, go around the horn. Yankees catcher can't play defense. Yankees first baseman, they don't have one until Luke Voigt comes back, and the guys that they put there can't play defense. Their second baseman, Odor, the guy they brought in so they could move DJ to first so they could get a little defense, boots a double play tailor-made on Friday that cost them the game. Gleyber can't play defense. Gio, uncharacteristic, can play great defense, but when one guy makes one defensive miscue and it blows up in your face, that's the case. Clint can't play defense despite apparently being a Gold Glover last year, wasn't able to make a diving play, and was diving for the ball wrong in the game. Even Paul O'Neill said it on the TV.
And the throw yesterday.
And then the throw yesterday to the pitcher. You don't do that. You do that in Little League.
You
Cole
don't
looked like
do
he
that
wanted
in
to
Little
kill
League.
him.
You
Yeah.
don't
Cole
do
wanted
that in
to
Little
kill
League.
him.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing? And then lackadaisical Aaron Hicks, the guy who is supposed to be their best defensive outfielder, looking like he's going through the motions. And then Judge, who, for one reason or another, whether it's because he's hurt, because he's lingering with something, or because he just does not want to put his body at risk, turns what usually is him taking a good wrap to a ball into a tumble tootsie roll, whatever the hell, in the outfield. And it goes back to the first game, a ball he should have had in extra innings, he did not to take the right route to. And they lost that game because of that.
And that's
The
the lack of
defense has
attention
been
to
an
detail.
issue. Yeah, it's been an issue since game one.
It's
Since
been an
the
issue
first
for
game of the
years.
season, or for years. Yeah, exactly.
Been an issue
and
for
that's
years.
what it is. So completely around the horn, they have one
Baseline
competent
too.
defender.
Oh my God.
You know? So it's like, when you really think about it, that's the team that should be going out there at 11 a.m. And they didn't do it until the next day when they got their asses handed to them. After everybody and the mother was like, man, looks like Tampa Bay does a lot of great things, right? They're taking BP and ground balls at 11 a.m. on a Sunday. And then the Yankees were like, oh, yeah, we're baseball players too. Maybe we should do that.
You know what
After
they're
they got
doing?
their teeth kicked in on Friday night by that same team.
They've been trying so damn hard to be the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah.
And you're failing. You're not the Tampa Bay Rays. You're not.
And they don't need to be.
They don't.
And
Why would they
that's
want to
what I'm
be?
saying. You don't need to be. It's just you're failing at everything that you want to be. Like, you don't need to be the Tampa Bay Rays. Be the fucking New York Yankees, man.
And
Jesus Christ.
to that point, and this is where you can really go full circle. Today, you have to hear Brian Cashman come on and talk about how we're not worried about it. We can overcome it. It's still early, blah, blah, blah. The same
Didn't I
shit
call
we
it?
always-
I called it in my tweet,
Yeah,
right?
you're right. And it's the same stuff we always hear, but he wants you to believe that because they're the New York Yankees, but then they don't act like it. You don't act like you're the Yankees, except to quell the fears of the fan base and the media so that you can keep slogging the same crap and shoving it down our throats to tell us for 3 years that this core is going to win despite making zero improvements and doing anything other than getting Garrett Cole that would help this team actually compete for a World Series rather than be 5 games under 500 through the first 15 games of the year.
So I get, obviously, Cashman, why he speaks to the media today, because he knows this is after this weekend, it needs addressing. So yeah, as predicted, it was the cookie cutter, nonsense. We believe in these players. We believe in this manager. It's a fail. All of us are taking it hard, and it's on all of us equally because we're all a part of this team. Blah blah blah. Listen, we don't want to hear that right now. We don't want to hear that right now. And I get that he has to come out there and say stuff like that because he's not firing anyone. He's not trading anyone. He's not signing anyone, obviously, in the middle of the season. So I get it. But what the fans want, what we want to hear is, how are you going to get out of it? Not that you just will. We don't have blind faith with these players anymore. We're past that point. We have seen it time and time again that in pressure situations, which is October, this team does not respond to pressure. You want to give them credit for making the playoffs every season or, advancing a round or two, depending on the playoff format that year. Fine. Give them credit for that because not every team does it. But when the expectation, which they set for themselves every season, is winning a championship, and you continue to wilt away in pressure situations in October, when it carries over into the following April, do not sit there and tell us that it's all going to just be fine. Because when is it going to be fine? When is it going to happen? When are we breaking through? Obviously, he doesn't have a crystal ball. He can't tell us when that's going to happen. But what we want is change. We want action. We want to know what is being done. We don't want to hear about how it's all okay and how, we believe in this guy. We believe in that guy. We've heard all this crap before, and it hasn't gotten us anywhere. It starts at the top with Cashman. His comments today, it didn't make me angrier. It didn't make me happier. That's for sure. all I know is that it fell flat for me because I want to know, and I think I speak for you guys too, what is going to change to make this happen? Because we're tired of hearing about how it's just going to magically just stop. The bad play is going to stop. The winning is going to start. We want to know how that, and
I think
so
the problem is I don't think we know how. And that's
he doesn't know how.
We're going with, again, because they were
Yes.
the luxury tax. We're saying this is the
Yes.
players we're going to see the rest of the way. I think we're going to live or die with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I do think they have to get it guys. Seriously, this team is too talented, I would think, to be buried like this, for like to play like this. I mean, the defense and all that stuff, base running, but like to hit like this, I would think they would have to get it going, right?
But here's the thing. The reason they hitting like this is because of what you've seen on Yankees Reddit, or what the boys at Talking Yanks have talked about, or what you've heard on Twitter. People have figured them out. So how good of a team hitting wise is this team if, truthfully speaking, whether it's Stanton, whether it's Hicks, whether it's Glaber, whether it's everybody but TJ pretty much, and I would say 90% of the time Judge, because when he is healthy, he usually does figure it out. They apparently can't hit breaking balls. They didn't hit them in 2017 when they had 39 straight of them in those 2-game series again, and the final 2 games against Houston, and they can't hit them now. So if that's all they're going to get, then I don't know. I don't really buy that the offense can figure it out, because the offense, truthfully, then just is not that good, or is not as good as we all think it is.
So they're not all going to hit under 200 all year. That will change. There will be some positive regression towards what their career numbers suggest, but that doesn't mean that that's going to turn into a winning baseball team. They'll obviously start hitting better.
They might be a mediocre team or something.
Exactly. Because of all those other issues, that we've spoken about, whether that's the defense, the pitching, whatever. But yeah, I mean, they're not going to be, what is their team slugging percentage? It's tied for last in baseball with the Texas Rangers. That's not going to be the case all season based on all the career stats that these guys have. Yeah.
And eventually they will face crappy pitchers, because that's what happened when they faced Baltimore.
Pitching,
we haven't faced, but that's true.
That's the issue. They haven't even faced good pitching, and they're still hitting like shit. You know what I mean? Like, what happened? In the playoffs,
Michael Wacha apparently,
Michael Wacha is freaking Cy Young now when it comes to the Yankees.
Or he looked like he did when he was with the Cardinals, despite having a 7.5 ERA with the Mets last year.
That's true. And look at so the strategy and the analytic of how it's just not working, right?
It's not working.
It's not working at all. And I think right now we're seeing the worst case scenario that we have ever seen of it not working. So Jules and Josh, you guys asked it, like, what needs to change? Like, what are these hitters going to make adjustments? Are they going to come into the game one day and say, like, fuck the scouting report? No, I don't think so.
No.
Every day they're going to continue to get the scouting report. They're going to go up to the plate. They're going to know, you know what I mean? They're just going to continue to. I just don't think they're going to change anything. They're
not. They're not. All these guys have been in the organization for years, and this is how they've done it for years. This is how they've been taught, and this is how they're coached. That's not changing. The adjustments are not happening. If they were going to happen, they would have happened years ago. And that's what the frustrating part is that it's the same crap every fucking year. And they keep telling us how it's going to be different, but you keep bringing back the same players, the same roster, the same issues keep popping up. And it's because the process at the top, which is run by Cashman and his analytical staff, it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and it hasn't worked.
It hasn't. And the fact is, and this is the great final full circle moment, is, look, he might be a great guy, but Aaron Boone is a shitty manager. And that's what it is. The fact of the matter is, this guy cannot manage. And not only does he not manage, he shows an indifference to actually doing anything that would improve his baseball team. The only thing he knows how to do is keep the media off of Brian Cashman and the front office's trail, and make sure that they can't snoop around with what's going on with the players. So the fact is, This is a guy who apparently screamed and shouted and yelled after the New York Yankees got clowned by the Tampa Bay Rays on Friday. So what did they do? They came out on Saturday and they promptly left the bases loaded in the first inning when they had a chance to knock Tyler Glasnow out into Queens. And that's what it's been the entire time that he has been here. They have been clowned by everybody. In 2018, they got clowned by the fucking Red Sox at home in New York. Their biggest rival. They got clowned by them. They didn't make any moves. Red Sox played New York, and trotted all over Yankee Stadium. And then they just came out there the next year. And then they didn't hit in the playoffs again. They looked like crap. He didn't really do anything to manage them when it was the replacement players coming in. They got a great string of luck. That's what it is, because clearly they don't play Mike Tauchman now. Mike Ford's a minor leaguer who's coming up now. They stunk last year. So it's not as if Baron Boone miraculously sucked the talent out of these guys to have them work in 2019. That didn't happen. And then this year, when they need him to manage, when they need to get high quality fundamentals from this guy, when they need him to make people make appropriate decisions on the base paths, instead you have to hear this clown, this crock, talk about how, well, it's actually okay that Gary Sanchez didn't run to second base, because if he had, he probably would have gotten thrown out. We wound up scoring the run anyway. It's complacency.
There's no accountability.
He's a bum. And I guarantee you, it doesn't matter if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, if you're a journalist, if you're a garbage man. If you didn't do your job for 3 straight years, and the same thing happened in all 3 of those years, 1, you wouldn't have a job, but 2, you wouldn't show up the next year and say, well, my presentation really shit the bed last time, but, I think it'll be good this time around, even though I'm not prepared and nothing's really going on. And the same crap of Gary Sanchez 3 days in a row, or 3 games in a row, or a week in a row, whatever it was, making the same mistakes at the base paths, I guarantee you wouldn't have happened with Buck Showalter, Joe Torre, Joe Girardi, any of these guys who are competent managers. It probably wouldn't even happen on the White Sox with Tony La Russa. It only happens here. It happens here because the guy can't manage, because the guy is a babysitter. And because he's a babysitter, whether it's Stanton or Judge or Glaber or Hicks or anybody, they don't say to themselves, all right, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to take it into my own hands, because they don't need to. Because if you're going to get babied in front of the media, if you're going to get babied so the front office doesn't have to have anybody on their trail, then you kick your feet up. Then you play like Aaron Hicks played in the outfield yesterday, screwing over the best player and their only opportunity to win a game in that series. Or you play like Clint Frazier, who has no idea where to throw the damn ball. Or you play like any of the other guys who just go through the motions out there and act like they've won something, even though everybody outside of Brett Gardner has not won a damn thing when it really matters on this Yankee team.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything you just said. I felt this way from the beginning with him, and nothing has changed to make me feel like I was wrong about Boone since 2018. I mean, he was better in 2019. A lot of that had to do with those replacement guys, like you said, which is a stroke of luck, because it didn't carry over. How much of that had to deal with Carlos
Beltran? The fact is, there's articles about how it was Beltran who told the pitchers back in 2018 and 19 that they were tipping pitches. Meanwhile, Boone's bringing Lance Lynn into a bases loaded game against Boston when the guy's warming up. The same Lance Lynn who 3 times after that, as far as pitching is concerned, has been electric. But we don't want him. We'd rather pay for the replacement guys.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there has been nothing that you've seen in the last year plus that would make you think that Boone is the right person for this job.
Hey, 600 winning percentage, guys. Come on.
Yeah, right. Those 200 win seasons, man. Okay, that was 3 and 2 years ago. So what has happened since then? I mean, at this point, we're past they won 200 games. They won 200 games, two combined seasons. We're past that, man. We're past that. There's no, I said it in the beginning, I said it just now, there's no accountability with this guy, because all he does is go up there and coddle the players, makes everything seem like it's okay. You talked about what he said about Gary. Well, the play last week where Judge misplays the ball and it rolls all the way to the wall, and Biggio is with it, got to third base, and for some reason he rounds third and goes home. And they happen to get lucky that he did that because the Yankees threw him out at the plate and then he got caught in a rundown. So they got bailed out by Biggio's mistake. And after the game, Boone says, "Well, it was a great play by Judge to get that ball back in there." He misplayed the ball, and it cost them 2 extra bases, and you only got the out because the guy, for some reason, thought the throw. I guess he thought the throw was going to go away, or he didn't think Judge had the ball. Whatever. That's why the out was made, not because Judge made some miraculous play to get a guy out at home on a throw from right field.
And if that was Tampa Bay and not a young Toronto team who has a lot of experience,
they wouldn't have rounded third.
They wouldn't have ran at third. Yep.
Yeah. And so they got lucky there, and that's fine. And they ended up losing the game anyway, so whatever. But the quotes like that is what makes you sit there and think to yourself, like, what the hell is going on here? And then when he addresses the team on Friday after rock fucking bottom, and they go out there and they lay an egg the next day, all we're told is how great of a communicator Boone is, and that's why he was hired, blah, blah, blah. He really connects with the team. What happened then?
They're not responding to him.
They don't respond to him, and he doesn't hold them accountable, and that's why they don't respond, because they know that it's never that. Well, they think that it's never their fault, because that's what they're told by their general manager and by their field manager, that it's okay. It's all okay.
I'm gonna tell you 2 things: fried chicken and beer. The last time there was a manager like that, Sox let him go. And now Francona is great in Cleveland, but at a certain point, when you lose the locker room because the players just don't give a crap about playing for you anymore, because they know that no matter what happens on the field, they are going to have somebody standing in front of them taking all the swords in their back. I mean,
and off topic, but he lies to the media about the injuries all the time too.
Yeah,
that doesn't really matter with the play, but that pisses off the fans. Pisses me off.
Do you think that's him though, or like I think it's just like it's just.
I mean, that's the reason they hired him. They hired him
to be a
because he is perfect for the vision of what the front office wants.
Yeah, he is, and that's why I don't think he's gonna go anywhere.
He's not.
I really don't.
He's never gonna. You think Hal and Cashman want somebody there who is going to be an independent thinker? More money? Yeah, well, they don't want Buck Showalter, who's going to go on Yes Network like he has done when they've had him on there and say, I don't know if I really would have done that if I was out there managing or analyzing the game, or would have understood the way that certain of these things. No, teams don't want that anymore, man. They want the nerds in the front office to be able to put the lineup and percentages down there, and the front office guy to then be able to say to the manager, hey, just whatever happens, it's not us, it's you. And we'll keep you around and the media will eat you, but we got your back. We know that, things aren't going to be there, and I mean, clearly Boone doesn't actually understand the actual fundamentals of being a baseball player, and he's probably not that athletic to begin with, and that's probably why he's hurt his back playing basketball way back.
Oh, that's a little
and maybe is a low blow, but he deserves it. And full circle would be them firing Boone and bringing on A-Rod.
I know.
Yep.
The owner of the owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't think he's getting into management.
Don't forget, we called it here when J-Lo and A-Rod. I felt it. I knew something was going on. You know what I feel like I'm reliving, and every time my neighbor's I hear the theme music sometimes. I really do feel like I'm reliving Game of Thrones. Okay. 2017.
You're going to have to fill Jules and I in.
Okay. It'll be simple.
Hate that show.
Game of Thrones was at the peak, right? It was one of the most talked about shows, even if those you guys didn't watch.
Yeah.
Season 6 of Game of Thrones was the peak. I'm talking about it was literally must-see TV. Everything was about it. And I think that when it comes related to the Yankees, I'm going to say that was the 2017 Yankees. Yeah, they weren't like Game of Thrones where they were newer, but that's when we were like, wow, the next couple years are going to be exciting. We're seeing World Series runs. We have something here.
Guess who the manager was?
Yeah. And now I feel like we're regressing. And we're a lot farther to that World Series championship than we were closer in 2017, the way they're playing right now. So I feel like they're like Game of Thrones. We're botching it. And when you hired Aaron Boone in 2018, you had to make sure, right, that this was the right guy for the job with this core. And they thought so, but clearly it's not working out. But I want to say something. We talked about Aaron Boone. You guys, we shit on him. I don't like Aaron Boone, whatever. But it starts higher than that, and it does start with Brian Cashman because these are the players that he has constructed. This is a team that he has built, and these players that he has come together are just not doing the job. And they were doing the job enough to make the playoffs and then fail there. But now we're clearly seeing in 2021 that they're failing right from the get-go. And that's really where the problem is, but we're going to keep going in circles because it's not going to change.
You want to know something? Last year,
well, Brian Cashman's the root of the problem, in my opinion.
It was a 60-game season last year, and they were 6 games over 500, and they only made the playoffs because it was an expanded format. And I think we all thought, and a lot of other people thought, well, 60 games, you can't really take too much into consideration there. Over the course of a full season, they would have been fine. Well, they decided basically to bring back the same lineup. They tweaked the pitching staff, but nothing drastic where you would feel like things improved a lot. And they've run it back.
Worse. No Tanaka.
Yeah. Well, it seems like that so far. They've run it back, and it's still not working. And E-Ray's right. It starts at the top. And I'm not going to sit here and call for Cashman's job. I'm not going to say that he should be fired
I'm not doing that
right now. He's a great general manager. No team in baseball has done what the Yankees have done in the time that he's been there. Obviously, they haven't won the same amount of championships as, say, the Red Sox, for example. But the Yankees win every season. They're in the playoffs almost every year. That doesn't happen across any sport, really. With few exceptions, and maybe in the NBA. But Cashman, he's done a really, really good job throughout this 20 whatever years. But this group is not it. And it's been our fear, I think, for a couple of years that maybe this would never, work out. And again, like you said, E-Ray, it's regressed. Nothing has really improved. At least in my opinion, 2019 was the peak because that team to me felt
You're right,
like,
actually. Yeah.
I never thought the 2017 team was good enough to win a championship. I definitely thought the 2019 team was. That was the peak. They didn't, the peak was a little bit shorter than where they wanted to be, but it was the peak. And since then, it's all regressed. I don't know if any player has really improved, maybe aside from Voit and Urshela in that time.
Urshela majorly, he's fantastic.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it starts at the top. Like you said, man, this roster the pieces, it's just not working. And I think the offense, we've said it will turn around. These guys will start to hit and, whatever. The problems are still the problems there. The main issue with Cashman still is and always has been the pitching staff. And he's never been able to really build a rotation. They haven't really developed pitching in his entire time there. And there's just certain things where you have to look at and say, all right, what is the issue here? Is the issue really the fact that they're just in a really, really bad slump? Or is it the fact that these pieces are not right together? And that's where I am at right now, because I look at each player individually and I'm like, okay, yeah, that guy's really good. That guy's really good. That guy's really good, blah, blah, blah. But they are not built for their stadium. We've talked about that a million times. They ignore starting pitching. They just flat out, straight up ignore it. They go bargain bin shopping every time and it doesn't work. It's just not working. It's not working. And what isn't working is the construction of the team, the way they use their analytics. If you're complaining about analytics, stop it already. Every team does it, but it's not working the way they've done it. Their process is broken. And we've been saying that. Yeah. And now we know it's broken because this 15-game stretch isn't just a 15-game stretch.
No. Now, Josh, you said something there, and I thought it was very interesting. You said that, the way that the Yankees have made the playoffs and they've had success hasn't really happened in other sports. And it's true, but it's also not true. I'm a Devils fan, and from about 24
I don't care about hockey.
Well, it's true. But between 24 seasons, between 1987 and 2012, the Devils made the playoffs 21 out of 24 times, including 13 straight times. Their GM was Lou Lamoriello, who, whoever you talk to, nobody would argue Lou is not one of, if not the most brilliant hockey mind who has ever graced, the general manager's office. Devils won 3 cups with him. They had some of the best teams, and in a way like Cashman did, who ironically enough, they are very good friends. And Cashman is a huge Devils fan. In a way that Cashman did, Lou made his bones by finding undrafted free agents, being able to survive while being in the bottom half of the draft, and being able to do things that got this team to the playoffs year after year and made them competitive. But in the same way that the Yankees continue to be competitive and continue to not have an under 500 season and continue to draft low because of their success year in and year out, at a certain point, I think maybe you overstay your welcome. And in the same way that the New Jersey Devils, not because of anything that Lou Lamoriello did wrong, but in the fact that he had been there for so long, he'd almost forgotten how to be able to see the team without, this love and affection that somebody who's been there for so long would have. Maybe you think that contributes to Brian Cashman's inability to break away from the analytics every now and then and be like, hey, let's get more lefties who are confident, or hey, let's spend money on starting pitching, even though we do have a top flight ace at the top of the rotation. And look, does that mean that the Yankees should part ways with Brian Cashman in the same way that, Lou Lamoriello and the Devils parted? No, it doesn't. The fact is the Devils still stink now, and they haven't been able to put together sans one season a competent lineup on the ice that would help them win. But it does mean that, after a certain point, you would hope somebody like Cashman would take a step back and say to themselves, am I really doing what is necessary to help this team win? Or am I blinded by the success that we've been able to have during my tenure here? And that's preventing me from really being able to achieve that next level. And we've talked about it before. The Yankees might not give a shit. The fact is, Hal Steinbrenner probably loves that they make the playoffs every year, that they get butts in the seats for the ALDS or the wild card game or the ALCS. And they don't really give a crap. If they fall ass backwards into the World Series, then hey, they win it. But brand-wise, baseball's killing itself. And the Yankees don't really have to worry about that because the name brand of the NY on the hat will always be around in the New York area to the point where they'll do that. So, maybe that's it. But, it is something that's worthwhile or worth thinking about. And look, there's nobody out there short of the Yankees somehow finagling Theo Epstein to be their next general manager and vice president or whatever the hell job he would want to replace Brian Cashman. There's nobody better in the game than him. But at a certain point, I think he needs to do a little bit of soul searching and understand what kind of product he's putting out there, because it sure as shit is not the same product that they were putting out there in the late 90s and the early 2000s when Gene Stick Michael was still doing things and they were bouncing ideas off of each other around then.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. When you're in one guy in one job for that long, for over 2 decades, you have a certain way of doing things. And sometimes you get blinded by that. And that's the only way. And you don't take a step back and reevaluate and ask yourself, okay, what works? What doesn't work? What do we need to change? Whatever. I don't think that's happened. And it clearly hasn't, because it's been the same roster pretty much for 3-4 years running that has continued to not get the job done when it matters. I think that, we talked about a little bit before about how, they tried to be the Rays, this and that. When you have a $200 million payroll, you really don't need to try to do that stuff. And I think a lot of that comes from Cashman and comes from his analytics staff. And I think that's something that they need to look into too, and say to themselves, well, why are we doing this? Even though the Steinbrenners won't let us exceed the luxury tax, whatever, our payroll is 190 million, 189 million, whatever it is. We don't need to be doing these things, especially not this early in the season. Why does this keep happening? Why do we keep getting ourselves into this position where we don't have an extra arm to rely on? We don't have any really reliable arms besides one and Jordan Montgomery sometimes. Why does
He's
this
a
keep
competent
happening?
4, but not a 2.
Yeah. Why does this keep happening? That's what they need to reevaluate. The same goes for the offense. They certainly have this one specific type of player that they like. That's an Aaron Judge, a Luke Voigt, a Giancarlo Stanton,
It's not working.
Gleyber Torres to a certain extent, and it's not working. And that is what they need to reevaluate, I think. I'm not going to sit here and say that Cashman should be fired, that he's not the guy who deserves an opportunity to figure it out. But I do know that it needs to be figured out. I do know that I think despite the fact that they aren't allowed to exceed the luxury tax, that's still plenty of money to win a championship. But if we want to talk about the luxury tax, I also think that part of this falls on Hal Steinbrenner too, because why do you continue to not allow your general manager to make necessary improvements? Because I'm sure if it was a blank check every offseason, we wouldn't be necessarily dealing with Corey Kluber, Jameson Taillon, James Paxton, Nathan Eovaldi all the time.
We're not calling Yankees cheap either. It's just like making the necessary moves.
Go the extra mile. When I look at the Dodgers winning a World Series, a year, in which they trade for Mookie Betts and then sign him to a record contract extension, and then they win the championship, and then they immediately go and sign the guy who was the best pitcher in the National League last year, the Cy Young winner, Trevor Bauer. It makes me sick because there's no reason why the Yankees shouldn't be doing the same type of things, and they just
what's almost ironic? Hal Steinbrenner, look, he's not his dad. We wish he was, because then he would spend money and wouldn't give a crap about doing anything other than winning. But it almost seems like the Yankees, who want to be the Rays, who want to invest so heavily in analytics, have done that while trying to literally be the Rays when they can be the Dodgers. And I think a lot of that falls on Hal Steinbrenner. The fact that Cashman doesn't need to play with a lack of luxury tax. Let him go over it, so that way you can afford to say to a guy like Mookie Betts, who, he didn't hit free agency, but maybe he would have, knowing that, hey, the Yankees might have been a guy who would have been in serious play for them. Or Trevor Bauer, a guy you can meet with so you can try and build up what's going on. It's at this point where we almost have come to expect that the Yankees are not going to be a major player in anything more than one free agent, because the luxury tax inhibits them, rather than them merging the analytics, merging the ability to spend money, and going out there and being the Dodgers, which is what they should be, because they are the most profitable baseball team in Major League Baseball and the biggest name brand in sports, outside of maybe like the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, who knows? Maybe if they have maybe if it's a lost season, Steinbrenner says, to Cashman this winter, all right, spend us back into the playoffs. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe.
But and we can only hope.
Also, if they do somehow turn around, I guess, we want that. It wouldn't surprise me. Again, I want to reiterate to everyone, we're not complaining about the first 15 games. We're not complaining about the slow.
We're complaining a lot about the last 100.
We're complaining about the whole everything. We're looking at the whole thing here, and that's what the issue is. I also think, Jocelyn, you mentioned $200 million payroll. I think that even them having that and having so many holes on
it makes no sense.
Is glaring. That's not how it should be. So you start to question, okay, did we allocate the right money into the right time?
Especially when outside of Stanton, they don't really have that many big contracts.
I know we don't have a lot of time today, but we can talk about that another time, which sucks because I love Stanton now, but the way they're spending
but that's what I've always said. And here's the thing, a big argument for me that Stanton haters say, oh, the money's really tying you up. It's like, yeah, but with the Ellsbury money, they could have found ways to work around it, and they still spent money that offseason, and I get it. But it's like they're holding on to dear life with the idea that, hey, maybe these guys will turn into good players outside of Stanton. The Judges, the Gary Sanchez's, the Gleyber Torres's, these guys who they eventually want to give contracts to 5 years from now, in lieu of spending money now to win a World Series.
And at this point, right now, do we want to extend any of those players? No. And that was the reason we were given for why they didn't sign Manny Machado. They didn't sign Bryce Harper. And I'm not sitting here saying that I want Bryce Harper, because I don't know if I do. But I would have liked Manny Machado on this team. But
I wanted Manny Machado.
That's the thinking that got us where we are. The
And
Stanton
if they
thing,
don't hit on Gio, they would have a glaring need at third base.
yes, because Andujar's been hurt for 2 years. Another guy who's lost, gone,
Yep.
just I don't know where. It's you're right. That was a great point. They have this high payroll, but they still have so many holes.
Yep.
So that means they're not putting money in the right places. And the excuse that we were given 3 years ago, 4 years ago, they can't just go and sign all these guys because eventually they're going to have to sign X, Y, and Z who they already have. Well, how the hell do we know that any of these guys are going to develop into the players we think they are? I would say Judge is the player we thought he would be, but he's just never healthy. Yeah, Sanchez is not what we thought he would be. Gleyber is well on his way to not being what we thought he would be. So
Gio is not a guy you're going to go long term. Clint never gets the chance to play, and Stanton's here until he's 90, so you don't have to worry about locking him up. It's brutal. Anyway, No. Make your final point, and then we'll kind of get to the schedule, and then we'll wrap things up so people don't have to hear us bring their mood down anymore.
I was just gonna say, actually, I still want to believe in Gleyber, but whatever, fuck everything. But I do have something I read today. Pretty funny. I read today earlier. Apparently, that Aaron Hicks. I mean, I saw him play golf earlier this year, but his favorite sport is golf or something. Baseball second. Maybe you should fucking go play golf, Aaron Hicks. How about that?
See, hey, he'll have plenty of time.
That's another guy. That's another guy who they locked.
Yeah, 7 years. Thanks, Aaron. We sign up him and Severino. Severino gets hurt every year, and then we sign up Aaron Hicks.
Those two Cashman contracts massively blew up in his face, and it's ironic because the Yankees always talked about how they would never do that with players. They would always wait until they could get them the free agency, and they decided to act like dummies. And he's been hurt. Hicks has been hurt literally since he signed that contract.
Yep.
The whole year he was out.
Besides Garrett Cole, who obviously signed a 9-year contract, and I don't count Stanton because he was traded. Who was the last player they signed to a contract that was 7 years or more? Was it Ellsbury?
Yeah, and that was
a
Tanaka failure too. So I think the Ellsbury one.
So they don't give contracts that long to anyone, but they do for fucking Hicks, who's never going to be an all-star. Never going to be an all-star.
Why the hell did they sign Aaron Hicks? It makes no sense.
It's
because why? Do you know why? I'll tell you. They got him at $10 million. It's $10 million a year. So the luxury tax number.
Yep. See, Josh is right. All right. As far as the upcoming schedule is concerned, and I'll keep this kind of short so that way we don't have to go on our soapbox too much longer. They have a 2-game series, which will be against the Atlanta Braves on Tuesday. It's a 6:35 start at the stadium. They could get punched in the mouth there. Then they go on the road, finally playing some teams outside of their division as they go 4 games against Cleveland and then 4 back in their division against Baltimore before having the last game of April be against the Tigers. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games to end the month of April. I'll make it really simple for you guys. What do the Yankees need to be when April hits in order for you to feel confident?
When May hits, you mean?
Yeah, when May hits, sorry.
Record-wise?
Yes. 11 games left. They're 5-10. So 500 would be 11 and 6 and 5. So 11 and 20. No, that's not right.
Well, we were all journalism majors for a reason.
So
I'll say this: if they finish April, these last 11 games in this month, if they have 7 wins out of these next 11 games, I'll feel good. I'll feel better, I should say. I don't know if I'll feel good, but I'll feel better. Anything less than that, even 6 wins at 6 out of 11,
that would be 12 wins by the end of May. 12 wins by the end of May. There's 5 and 10 right now, so that would be 12 and I forget how many games it says. 8, 9, 10, 11. 12 and 19.
No, because they're 5 games under now. So if they win 7,
at least
12.
we're giving some comedy at the end of this episode.
My point is that I need to see them win more. I need to see them win significantly more games than they lose over these next 11 games for me to feel like, okay, there's something happening here. If they're, 6 and 5 or 5 and 6, or God forbid worse, I'm not going to feel good.
12 and 14. That's what it would be. 12 and 14.
If they're 12 and 14
I
at
thought
the
they
end
had
of the month,
15 losses. Sorry.
if they're
Feels
12
like
and
15
14 at
losses.
the end of the month and have won 7 out of 11, things will probably be looking up, and we'll be, right where we want to be by, come May, meaning we can make a little bit more of a run back to the top of the division. I'll feel okay. But like I said, anything lower than that, I'm probably going to feel the same way I feel right now.
Ray, what about you? Next
You know
11
what
games, what do you want?
You know what I want? You know what I really want?
11-0.
No, I want them. I just want to see one goddamn inning where they get 8 or 9 hits,
Yes.
6 runs. Just put together an inning where we were seeing the Yankees of the past where they're working at bats, they're getting base hits, they're hitting homers. Just give me that. We haven't had that since last week, Toronto game where they finally broke free.
Probably, honestly.
No, it was the Tampa. It was the Tampa
Baltimore
game. Tampa in extra innings.
Yep.
The 10th inning last Sunday.
And if you want real innings and not the Fugazi stuff where they start on second,
that's true.
It was
give me some innings.
Baltimore was the last time when they did it. And
we want a rally.
A rally. We want a rally. Just give me that, man.
Or at least a first inning where they just blow it open. That would be unbelievable.
Yes, that's what I want too. Yes.
When they get a hit, when they get a hit, they're down 1 or 2 runs and they get a hit past the 6th inning. I want to faint. I'm like yesterday when Giorgio hit a double, I was in complete awe. And then they didn't even move to third. But I was actually like in complete shock when he hit a double.
Yeah, it's true.
So
this team, it's gonna break.
I just want to say
we're broken. New York Yankees baseball, baby.
Yeah.
I just want to say that. So you say they have 11 games left in this month, and I believe they play two more in May for I think it's 13 games in a row. I don't think they have an off day.
Yes, so they have the 30th is the series against the Tigers, and the Tigers series goes until Monday the 3rd of May.
So
and then Houston at home.
You know what? But you know what that means.
We'll be in attendance.
No, I'm not even thinking that. I'm saying that in these next 2 weeks where they don't have an off day, their starting pitching has to be better because their bullpen is going to be so taxed by the end of it if it isn't.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean that's definitely something very key to look into is that, because that honestly could make or break the rest of the season, as crazy as it is to say.
No, you're absolutely right. Here's
for the division. For the division's sake, I guess.
Absolutely. And you're at the point where the sun's setting quick, as Josh mentioned before, that if the Yankees don't start to turn this around, then something could go seriously wrong, at least as far as them being able to compete and be able to do things in the summer without having to worry about injuries and stuff like that. For me, the one thing I want to see is a series sweep. That's what I want. They have a couple of series that they could win. I want them. Series. Well, they won a series already. They beat Baltimore. And look, the fact is, go sweep Baltimore again. If you're going to stink against Tampa because they have your number, if you're going to stink against Toronto because they hit well and they have good hard throwing righties, then at least beat the piss out of the Baltimore Orioles, please.
I'm going, by the way,
at Camden Yards.
Oh, you're actually
dominate. See, E-Ray's going to be there.
I think I'm going to go next week.
So E-Ray's going to be there. Please, for the love of God, sweep the Orioles and win some other games in there.
You know
too.
what?
So
win 3 out of 4 in Cleveland too, because the Indians they're nothing great.
Yeah, and they
can't hit either, right?
They can't hit. They can't hit either.
Oh God, I can't wait for those scores.
It's gonna be 1-0. Yankees losing a walk-off 4 straight days.
Yep, Chapman blows it, right? Anyway, the Yankees next game, Tuesday, April 20th. So that's tomorrow. We're recording this on Monday, the 19th. No, it's actually Jameson Taillon who's going to be pitching.
Oh, I'm wrong.
He's going to be matching up against the guy who should have been a Yankee, but isn't, Charlie Morton, which means the Yankees won't be scoring any runs tomorrow. And we can all pretty much guarantee that, right? Steady ride of breaking balls.
Yeah, you'll definitely see that. That's his pitch.
I don't even think he's been pitching well, but it doesn't matter.
He has a 4.76 ERA. He's 1-1 on.
After Michael Wacha, nothing matters, man.
Yeah, nothing matters.
The stats don't matter.
Absolutely, 100%. Anyway, boys, E-Ray, final thoughts. You're usually the man who brings us home.
So I have a stat. 5-10, a team has won a World Series 4 times when they started the season. 5-10.
Wow, that's a good stat.
The last team to do it, the 2002 Angels.
Wow. Very
And-
unremarkable World Series, though.
And it was. And I was Googling the 2022 MLB draft top 100 prospects in case this season really goes downhill and I don't jump off my balcony. We will see the Yankees draft Connor Prelip, whoever you are. But I'm on you, buddy.
Connor Prelip, welcome to the Pinstripes, brother. What position does he play?
He's a pitcher.
Yeah, they need that. They need that.
Finally.
that.
I don't even know who was their last, have they ever had a first overall draft pick?
Yeah, they did. Brian
Derek-
Taylor, 1992. He was not good.
See,
Derek
there you
Jeter.
go. So
Yeah, he was a
but
number one
not
overall,
first.
though.
Yeah, he
Oh, he
wasn't one
was.
overall.
Oh,
Yeah.
number one overall.
Yeah.
Yankees will be number one overall. The Rockies are worse. And they traded everyone. That's the thing, guys. The Yankees have the second worst record in baseball. Oh my, that's amazing to me. I hate
It is. It's pretty unbelievable. Worst record in the AL, but hey, it's early, right?
But don't
15.
panic. Don't panic.
We'll see what things have in store. Enjoy the Yankee game tomorrow. We'll be back as always
won't.
when we either are hyped or miserable or yelling some more. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast. If you do like it, you can subscribe to it and find it wherever you find podcasts. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as TuneIn and our home base, which is SoundCloud. And you can also watch us on YouTube. We have my YouTube channel at Julian Coltree, as well as our official OLYP YouTube channel at Our Little Yankees Podcast, where we put the videos up live of us talking about what's going on as well. So you can be able to follow us all season long. And if you like us, as I already said, hit subscribe. Yankees play tomorrow. They take on the Atlanta Braves. 2-game series, should be fun. And then they're off Thursday before heading to Cleveland and then taking on Baltimore and the Detroit Tigers after that. For Josh and E-Ray, I'm Julian. We'll catch you later, folks. Go Yanks.